Hello and welcome to the University of Law podcast. I'm your host, Rik Palmer, and in this podcast, I'll be bringing you interviews on law, criminology, policing, politics, and business.
I'm going to be interviewing different people and asking them all the questions that you might have for them. We're going to keep it light and fun, so it should hopefully be something enjoyable as well. Without wasting too much time, I'm going to start with our first podcast. Our first podcast is Joanne Russell, who is our Pro-Bono Co-Ordinator at the University of Law's Bloomsbury campus in London. Pro Bono is where students can get experience in the legal profession, where they're working with supervising, practicing solicitors to help a community with legal issues they might have. But I'm not going to come and talk to Joanne about that today. What I'm going to talk to Joanne about is her other career, because she's still a practicing criminal solicitor. So in this, we're going to talk about her career pathway, the education that she took to get to that pathway, and she's got some really funny anecdotes along the way. So here we are. This is my first interview with Joanne Russell. Take it away.
My kind of background is I did business law as a degree as my undergraduate. So I wanted to be a business lawyer. I wanted to do corporate commercial law. And then when I did a sandwich year in my third year at university, where I went into a regional sort of firm with 4 or 5 different offices. And I did a year working in lots of the different departments: housing, family, commercial, property, crime. And then when I went back to do my final year as my degree, I decided that I wanted to do crime. So that's why I got into crime.
And what was it that attracted you if you were already going down the corporate route?
Well, I just liked it because it was interesting. I liked corporate law as well, but I think criminal law, every day is different. You meet lots of different people. It's quite exciting. It's quite challenging. People can be all sorts of weird and wonderful. And it's very reactive, and you get out and about to meet people. I don't like the prospect of sitting behind a desk 24/7. That kind of bores me. So criminal law gets you out and about.
From when you started to, from leaving actual education, when was the first time that you actually got hands-on with the case?
So from leaving university education or school education?
And from your actual law qualification?
Yeah. So I think when I was on in my degree, I did my sandwich year, really. So that was my third year at university. So that's when I first got my hands on real clients. So at that stage, I was a paralegal in a law firm, and I worked there for a year. And I got to sit in appointments with all of the solicitors who were dealing with various different areas. They would give me research to do. But then the longer I was there, the more I got entrusted to deal with clients directly one-on-one. So I was still quite young and quite junior, and certainly didn't know half of the things that any of the lawyers knew. But it was quite nice to be trusted, certainly, to deal with at least some, tasks, like somebody looking over your shoulder 24/7. But it was nice to know that they were there.
Yeah.
As well.
And what were some of the earlier times when you actually thought, wow, that's a lot of responsibility I've just been given?
Well, when I was there at that stage, that was the same time that the Soa murder case happened. And my friend, who was also on my course at university, she was dealing with something to do with that case. And that got me quite excited. And then later on, when I was there in my third year at uni, and in my placement with that law firm, I got to deal with quite a serious matter that was very similar, not as highly publicised, but I think that's when I sort of decided, this is too exciting, I want to do this. I don't want to do corporate or commercial law ever again.
Do you let the criminal law slip into outside of the workplace and into your personal life? Do you like things like true crime podcasts and TV shows?
Yeah, all the time.
Do you always second guess how they're actually played out?
Yeah, so quite often, that's a big bugbear in our house. So quite often I'll press pause and I'll be like, this is not how this happened. This is not accurate. This doesn't work like this. I'll tell you what will happen. So yeah, if you're watching anything like that with me and with my colleagues as well, they're exactly the same. You always have to critique it and say, no, wouldn't happen. Fake news.
Yeah. I remember coming back in after Christmas and when everyone had been watching Making a Murderer a few years ago and coming in saying, can you believe that person is in prison? And then all the lawyers in work turning around and saying, yes, that was not it. The person's committed the crime. All this crazy DNA situation is actually not as bad as it seems. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I remember once, this is how sad my life was at one point. I remember being on call for the police station, and I was waiting for me to go down to deal with the police station job, and I was sitting watching 24 Hours in Police Custody while I was sitting waiting for the police station to call me to say that they were ready. And then at that point I just realised, why am I watching this? I'm about to do this in real life. Yeah, I'm about to do this in real life in half an hour. Why am I sitting watching this?
Do you sit there and watch it and roll your eyes thinking I'd have done a better job than this?
I sit there watching thinking I would never let myself be recorded doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone in 24 Hours in Police Custody would let that happen. Oh, it's terrible.
What's your favourite either podcast or like show that you've watched?
There's a BBC one that was on very recently. I've forgotten the name of it. It was a multi-part drama that was real. It was about murder investigations. That was quite good. But I do actually like 24 Hours in Police Custody as well.
I've never seen it, but I've had that recommended a lot.
Yeah, it is good. It's very reactive. It's very true to life, really. But yeah, I quite like that one.
I think there's a lot of people that really want to go into criminal law, and I think that probably it's quite a big jumping off point. A lot of it is because of TV as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. You know, a lot of doctors become doctors because of ER and so on. So I think it's fair that criminal TV inspires you. However, what do you think are some of the cons against criminal law in practicing as a solicitor and criminal?
Well, I think it's true what you say about people watching TV and thinking this is how it is in real life. So programs perhaps like 24 Hours in Police Custody, they give you one side, but they don't give you the totality of the realisation of what everything's about. You know, back when I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, I watched Ally McBeal, and that's what I thought corporate law was going to be all about. But needless to say, that's not what it's like either. But I think if you are thinking about getting into criminal law, you just have to have a real understanding of the realities of what it involves, not just the sort of sensational TV sort of stuff. There's plenty of resources out there for people to sort of find out information, and I would certainly encourage anyone who's going into criminal law to read a book by The Secret Barrister, which is really good, and it gives you sort of the warts and all view of criminal law. It is quite hard. Criminal law is hard. It's hard mentally. It's quite fast-paced. It you know, challenges you in lots and lots of different ways, emotionally, mentally, but you know, it is very rewarding at lots of different points. But yeah, you just have to have a good understanding of why you're going into criminal law, and that really it isn't like it is on TV. It's very clearly not like it is on TV most of the time.
Yeah, there's a huge spectrum as well of what can be covered, and obviously on TV it's usually murder because it's the most exciting thing to kind of see it play out. What other kind of cases and areas of criminal law are there that we might not always think go straight to?
Yeah, I think if you are dealing with criminal law, if you want to get any experience in dealing with criminal law, so if you don't know anybody that you could shadow or get involved in a firm, your best place to go is your local magistrate's court, because that will deal with murder cases for, you know, the starting point, but that is your day-to-day bread and butter crime. So you'll see lots of people coming before the court, whether it's, you know, bringing before the court for having a fight the night before, you know, people in pubs and stuff, or it's where the very serious crimes start. So you can go into your local magistrate's court and just sit in the public gallery and observe things that are going on, which is really, really a good start to look. Or a good point to start to look at whether you do actually want to get involved in that sort of area. But yeah, it's just sort of understanding, really. Other areas, there's lots of local authorities have powers to prosecute people. So, you know, trading standards and things like that. The police have powers not only in sort of the criminal context, but in a civil context. And also things like regulatory law, for instance, you know, the General Medical Council, for instance, some of their proceedings are criminal regulatory law. So there's kind of lots of linked things, and obviously fraud as well as general crime. There's lots of high net individual fraud type cases that people may find interesting too.
Have you always worked in defence, or have you ever been part of the CPS or worked on behalf of the prosecution?
I've prosecuted one case in my life, and that person went to prison for the maximum term available for that offence.
Oh,
and
wow.
I felt so bad afterwards. And he was Irish as well, which made me feel even worse. And he went to prison for the maximum length available for that offence, and I felt very guilty afterwards. And I've never prosecuted a single case since then. So yeah, I've always done defence work.
So on paper it was probably very successful, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not morally or mentally successful for me. But no, I've always practiced defence. I have had lots of colleagues actually, more recently, Crime Prosecution Service, have had a massive drive in recruitment to recruit lawyers over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, as well as newly qualified lawyers, as well as trainees and things. They've had a huge drive on recruitment recently. So I know lots of friends and former colleagues in the defence world who are now prosecution lawyers. And likewise, I have got lots of friends that were prosecution lawyers and have always been prosecution lawyers. So again, it's not like, it is on TV. We're not against each other. I've got many friends who, prosecute me, and then, we go out for a drink afterwards, or we go for dinner, or we go out and about. So yeah, we're not all against each other. A job is a job, and we're all sort of friends at the end of it, hopefully. People quite often ask defence lawyers, how do you sleep at night? And things like that, but it's a job. You're there to represent the client to your best of your ability, whether you're prosecuting them, whether you're defending them, that is your job to do. And I think certainly in the area that I work, and I've been doing it for sort of 13 odd years, I've been qualified now. I know quite a lot of the local solicitors and advocates, and law is actually quite a small world, and you'll meet people time and time again, particularly in criminal law. So it's good to be friends.
Is there any case that you've, in your history of practicing, that you think was like the most interesting case that you've worked on?
A bit of a law geek, I suppose, in some ways. Lots of cases are interesting because of the circumstances of the cases. So, a particular case is interesting because of the people involved in it or the offences that are involved in it. I kind of like dealing with new type of offences and new pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
So just for today, for instance, I dealt with something to do with a stalking protection order that is a new piece of legislation that came into force. I think it was the end of last year. And just today is the first time I've ever dealt with anything to do with that. So it's quite boringly exciting, really, to look up a new piece of law and to do that. But yeah, I've dealt with, some interesting things. I dealt with some computer hacking cases that were quite interesting because that, again, was very new when that pieces of legislation were brought out. And there are not many people in the country that were prosecuted for computer hacking. Certainly at that time, it was very, very new and very interesting. So, yeah, it's mostly interesting because of the people involved, really. It's the characters that you come across, and, people involved in crime can be anyone from the granny down the street to, a hard and fast criminal who's been doing it for 40, 50 years.
And a similar question, are there any that are particularly funny anecdotes that you can bring? Because I know that obviously sometimes interacting with a client can be a little bit unusual, especially in criminal law.
Yeah, lots. I think that's what makes criminal law, and I think all the lawyers who deal with criminal law will all have funny anecdotes on how they deal with sort of clients or situations. A lot of the people that I deal with, or certainly a good proportion of them, have got maybe substance misuse problems or mental health problems or cognitive impairments, and sometimes things don't go according to plan. And sometimes that can be quite funny, not because of the individual, but just in the circumstances you find yourself involved in. I remember once I had a client who I'd represented for a very, very long time, and he got arrested for something silly. I can't even remember what he was arrested for. In his property at the police station, he had a rat in his property. The rat was dead, so he came into the police station with a dead rat in his pocket. The police have to take his property from him, and the police, rightly so, wanted to dispose of the rat because it's unsafe, and he was point blank adamant that he was not going to let them get rid of the rat, so the rat had to be put in a plastic bag. So when I got to the police station, that was the first thing that they wanted me to deal with. Please, can I get him to write off this rat so that they could dispose of it? So that client I've known for quite a long time. He had various issues in his life, one of which was mainly alcohol. But after some negotiation skills, we managed to put the rat to rest in an appropriate place, and he handed that over. But yeah, so weird and wonderful. There's lots of weird things. I also had a client who once refused to. He was arrested on a summer's day, and he had an ice cream, a Magnum with him, and he refused to let the police put it in the bin, so it went into his property bag. And at the end of the investigation, when he got it back, it was just a melted ball of ice cream.
I get that one a bit more though.
Yeah, exactly. I would want to keep it too.
Take your hands off my Magnum.
Definitely. But yeah, lots of unusual things. Probably certainly more inappropriate things that I probably couldn't say on here. But yeah, it's quite funny.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me on the new ULaw podcast. That'll be
no problem.
Very good information to share with our prospective students and current students. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Well, thank you very much to Joanne for joining us there. That was really helpful. I hope you all find it useful and insightful. It's a really interesting, exciting area, criminal law, so hopefully that gave you a lot of insight into inspire you a little bit into what you might want to start doing. Some great points about the book The Secret Barrister. That's a really cool book to read. And then just maybe trying to get in court to watch some proceedings go on and get a bit of an understanding of the lingo, a little bit of what different court cases you might see that aren't just, standard murder. There's lots out there that you might get to see there. We're going to be posting more of these, so do make sure to keep in touch with us. You can find all this information in our resources section. So join us on law.ac.uk, and we look forward to having you download us again soon. Thank you.